Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. I hope that you are all well. This is where I talk about the books that I'm reading, and I like to read diverse books and I highlight Canadian literature. If you are new, thanks so much for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. I hope this lighting is going to be okay. It's a little dark. It's late tonight. But today I am going to be giving you recommendations for the Reading Across Canada Challenge for the February prompts. The February is Black History Month, and the prompt is to read a Canadian Black history book and or a book by a Black Canadian author. So if you don't know what the Reading Across Canada Challenge is, it's basically a reading challenge that gets people to read Canadian literature. That's the whole idea of it. I have suggested prompts for each month, but you can do this challenge however you would like. I will leave links below to the introductory video for 2024 and to the playlist and to the prompt sheet that you can use if that is helpful for you. I will also leave a list of all of the provinces and territories below, as I know that some people want to focus on either a certain region or read a book from each province and territory. So if that's helpful, you can check that out as well. So when I talk about the books that I'm going to recommend today, I will let you know if they fit other prompts as well. And then I will also let you know what provinces or territories that they could work for. And I also want to mention that if you are interested in taking the Reading Across Canada to the next level, channel members receive videos like this one ahead of time. Some members are part of the Reading Across Canada book club. That's been a lot of fun. We've read Coventry by Helen Humphreys, A New Season by Terry Follis, In Search of April Raintree by Beatrice Massonnier, Green Grass Running Water by Thomas King, and then for our February pick, we are reading and discussing The Innocents by Michael Crummy. We will be discussing that online on February the 20th. So if you are interested in being part of that and literally reading with people from all across Canada, then you are welcome to join in. The information on how to become a channel member is in the description box below, so check that out. Okay, so let's get to these recommendations. I have several books here for you, and I also want to point out that I may be telling you about one or two books from these authors, but most of them have more books to choose from, including some of them have children's books and poetry collections. So if you aren't inspired by the books themselves, then perhaps the authors are worth looking into a little bit further. So first, I will remind you of two debut books that I mentioned for January that you could use for February as well. And those are Childhood by Andre Alexis and In the Upper Country by Kai Thomas. Both of these are on my radar for February. And if you are trying to read by province, then both of these would also be good for Ontario. Some books that I've read, that I've enjoyed, and would recommend. I have a few authors on my shelves to share. The first is The Skin We're In by Desmond Cole. This is a nonfiction book that follows the year, I think it's 2017. I think that's true. And it looks at issues affecting Black people in Canada. And I think it's very well done. This could also be used for November, since the prompt is to read nonfiction. If you are reading the provinces, you could use this for Alberta or Ontario, as Desmond Cole was born in Red Deer, Alberta, not too far from me, and was raised in Ontario. Next up is Essie Adujan. The two books that I've read by her are Half-Blood Blues and Washington Black. She won the Giller Prize with both of them, so either of them could also be used for October's prompt. Half-Blood Blues is historical fiction about a group of jazz musicians between the world wars, and the book takes place in the US and in Germany. And I really enjoyed this one, but I think I enjoyed Washington Black even more. This book starts off so strong as we meet Washington Black, or Wash, who is growing up on a plantation in Barbados. And Wash gets called to work in the big house, and there he meets Titch, who recognizes a talent in Wash. And they embark on an adventure, and an unlikely friendship, I would say, too. There are still scenes and characters from this book that have stayed with me. Essie was born in Alberta and lives in BC, so both of these can be used for either of those provinces. Next up is a book that I haven't talked about this book too much, so I am happy to highlight it now. Gutter Child by J.L. Richardson, who was born and lives in Ontario. Gutter Child could have actually been used as a debut novel in January. This is a dystopian story that looks at a world of the haves and have-nots, basically. Elamina is the main character, and she is taken from the gutter to the mainland, kind of as a social experiment. This book is really interesting to compare it to our own societies. Next up is an author that I've mentioned many times. I read Reproduction by Ian Williams last year as a buddy read with Lindy from Magpie Reads. This was one of those books where the structure was part of the storytelling, and I have always said that Ian Williams is very thoughtful in every aspect of his books and his writing. This is a story of family and found family. It won the Giller Prize, so it could be used for October's prompt. And then on my radar, actually, for this year, is his nonfiction book called Disorientation. Obviously, it can be used for the November prompt, and I am really interested in this book, not only because I think Ian Williams is an author that we should be keeping an eye on, but the essays in this book are about the impact of racial encounters on racialized people. And Ian Williams brings his own experience and perspective to this. And for Canadians especially, I think that this is vital, since we seem to have lost our own responsibility of these topics and the issues, and tend to look to the US, to America, and say that these things happen there, but things are really good here in Canada, and that's just not really true. So voices like Ian Williams are really important. Ian Williams was born and raised in Ontario as well, so they can be used for that province. Next is a book I haven't mentioned in a while, Butter, Honey, Pig Bread by Francesca Equiasi, who was born in Nigeria and now lives in Nova Scotia. So this could be used for Nova Scotia and for April's prompt as well. This is a story of a mother and her twin daughters. It's about a traumatic event that happened and the different paths that the three women take and how they come together to reconcile. I also remember being captivated by the descriptions of food in this book. The last book that I've read that I want to share is another Giller Prize winner, so it could be used for October, and it is The Sleeping Car Porter by Suzette Mayer. This book highlights a part of Black Canadian history that still isn't very well known. Baxter is the main character, and we follow him on a journey across Canada as he takes care of the passengers on the train because he's the sleeping car porter. This book could be used for Alberta, since Suzette Mayer is from here in Calgary, actually. She also identifies with the LGBTQIA2S+ community, so it could be used for June's prompt as well. Now we are getting into more books from my shelf that are on my radar that I haven't read yet. And actually, I want to talk about one that is linked to Sleeping Car Porter. It is a nonfiction book called They Called Me George, and this is by Cecil Foster. So this is another one that's also good for November. This is also about the Canadian Black train porters, and it influenced Suzette Mayer's book. Cecil Foster is from Barbados and lives in Ontario, so the book could be used for April's prompt as well. Okay, another book that has been on my list for way too long, and I really need to get to it, is Dominoes at the Crossroads by Kai Kello. This is a collection of short stories, and the stories include themes of race, diaspora, and coming of age. This collection can be used for a few provinces, as Kai Kello was born in BC, raised in Alberta, and lives in Quebec. Another book that I've been meaning to get to is Finding Edward by Sheila Murray, who lives in Ontario, but was born and raised in England. So again, suitable for April's prompt. Finding Edward is about a man who immigrated from Jamaica to Toronto, Canada, and how he navigates being racialized in this new land. So I have a few more to go here. This next book is one that I started, but then I set it aside because, life happened, and it wasn't getting the time that it really needed. So I do need to get back to this. And it's Junie by Shailene Knight, who is from BC. This is also a coming-of-age story following the main character, Junie. It is about a mother and daughter relationship, which I usually find interesting as a theme. This next author, I still can't believe that I haven't read. I have What We All Long For by Dionne Brand. This could be used for Ontario, where the author lives. It's also good for the April prompt, since Dionne Brand is originally from Trinidad, I think. And it can be used for June, because Dionne Brand identifies with the LGBTQIA2S+ community. The story takes place in Toronto, and it's about the relationship between the city and the multicultural population that lives there. And it looks at the tension between Canadian culture and people being true or attempting to be true to their own culture, or the culture of their parents. It sounds very relevant to me. Up next is an anthology that's also been on my shelf for a while, and it's called Black Writers Matter. It's edited by Whitney French, who is from Ontario. This book comes in at about 200 pages. So depending on how exact you want to be with the prompts, remember, totally your rules, it could be considered for September's prompt to read a book that is less than 200 pages. It's only 208, I think. This anthology includes newer and established writers, and it focuses on the Black Canadian experience. And then the final book that I want to suggest is a book that has been on my radar ever since it was first published. And I really, really want to read it. I might be picking it up, I think. It's Policing Black Lives by Robin Maynard. It's a nonfiction book, so it could be used for November as well. And Robin Maynard is from Ontario. And I just have a feeling that this book is an important one in many ways, for the same reason that The Skin We're In and probably Disorientation are important. And I think it's because it challenges the tolerance and multiculturalism of Canada. I don't think that multiculturalism is a bad thing. I think they are good things. But I think it has also lulled Canadians into thinking that we don't have problems of racism and prejudice. And this book looks back on almost 400 years of Black lives in Canada. And I'm hoping that it will shed some light on the issues that have been overlooked. So please let me know if you have read any of these books that I am suggesting, if you are interested in any of these, or if you have other books that you would recommend for this prompt and that you would add to the list. I would love to hear about what you are planning to read for the Reading Across Canada Challenge. Also, what did you read in January? I'm looking forward to what you're reading in February. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.